This on page 116 is interesting because it talks about, so there's this movement going on in literary studies called the New Criticism. This is like in the mid 20th century or maybe a bit in the latter 20th century. And the question is whether do we have too much interpretation and whether interpretation is really, how much can we interpret something over and over and over again to get anything out of it? Like at some point, are we not just making stuff up? Really is the blunt way of putting it. So he says here that some essay in what this is in 1964, short essay in the Evergreen Review. The author was Susan Sontag. The Evergreen Review, titled simply "Against Interpretation." The argument of the piece was not very novel, but it was a cry from the heart of someone fed up with the new criticism's perennial, never consummated project of interpretation. The endless process of turning out new, ever more intricate readings of old works, demonstrating that under their surface lay other meanings that no one had yet dreamed of. And then on the next page, he says, and this is also a quote from Sontag, he says that, Susan Sontag says, interpretation is the revenge of the intellect upon art. And I thought that was interesting because it reminded me of Aristotle's quote about if you can, some people can do, and if you can't do, you teach. And it seems like that may be applicable in this case. People who are creative will make creative works, but people who are not creative will become literary critics. And I always thought that was kind of cheap for people to write books. There's all kinds of books that are written on literary criticism, right? Like people that write literary criticism of Shakespeare. And I always thought, like, who are you to write a book criticizing Shakespeare? Like, how big does your ego have to be for other people to believe that you could write a book criticizing Shakespeare's works and how popular Shakespeare is and how he's considered like the most important English playwright. And yet we have somebody in the 20th century who writes a book on Shakespeare and criticizes Shakespeare's plays. Like, how does a literary critic at all get credence when they're shitting on works that they have never even attempted to accomplish? To me, equals have to criticize one another for that to be valid, but not lowly academics. How could they possibly rise to defeat a giant like Shakespeare? I just don't understand that. But again, it may be part of this idea that you're in a place of privilege as an academic, and you're just expected to try to make a case for some criticism of a great work of art. And that's just, it's not as if you've accomplished it, but it's more that you're just expected to do it.